a lot of times, whether it's in real life or in sports, we happen to fall into this tendency to either make too much of a myth or too less of a myth. And one of the big myths in baseball is, well, the Rockies are going to score a lot of runs, but it's only because they play at Coors Field. And I mean, shit, my 7-year-old son playing Little League, he could hit a home run at Coors Field. And I'm not denying the validity of what Coors Field does. It's like Texas. There is some airstream in Texas that George Bush set up, and I mean, balls just literally get up in there and they fly out. Thanks, George. And in Coors, less altitude, the ball flies more. That's fine. I get that. But let's not act like... I'm sorry, I had to pause myself for a moment. But let's not act like that disqualifies everything that happens at that ballpark or with that team. Did anybody see who has the best record in baseball right now? That team that plays in Coors Field. Those 14-6 Colorado Rockies. But wait, the Dodgers are going to win the NL West every year. They got Clayton Kershaw. They got the best staff, the best offense. They're going to do it. Biggest payroll ever. Magic Johnson. Dodgers all day. The Dodgers are at 500. Last I checked, 14-6 was better than being at 500. And I apologize. I definitely said less altitude. It's higher altitude, as I now understand why people are laughing at me. So the higher altitude of Coors Field. And the interesting thing is when you look at the Rockies, I'm going to pull up some numbers here really quick, is everyone would think, oh, the Rockies are off to a good start. They're just being carried by their bats. They're scoring 9-10 runs a game. Well, they are scoring a lot of runs. I think they're currently second in the league in runs. But if you look at their lineup, Blackman's hitting 277, LeMahieu's hitting 295, Arenado's 325, Cargo's hitting 219, Reynolds is hitting 329. That would be their playing far above his head player. Gerardo Parra's right at 300. Trevor Story's at 181. They got a lot of guys who, despite playing in my 7-year-old can hit a home run in this ballpark, they got guys who are offensively underperforming. There is something to be said when you're just better than someone else, or your team is just better. You know, people look at the Warriors and it's like, well, of course they're going to win. They're just better at 4 out of 5 positions on a given night. They just are. If you look at the Rockies, they're just better 1 through 9 when they line up on the field every given night. You've got Nolan Arenado, Trevor Story, DJ LeMahieu, Ian Desmond / Mark when he comes back, and Mark Reynolds. In your outfield, you've got Charlie Blackmon, Gerardo Parra, and Carlos Gonzalez. You've got 5 guys on your team who can hit 30 home runs, 2 guys who can hit 40 home runs, one dude who's one of the 5 best players in the sport in Arenado, another who's a top 10 talent in the sport in Carlos Gonzalez, who's not even playing well at the moment. Imagine when he gets back to doing what he's doing, because I'm sorry, him and Trevor Story aren't hitting under 200 for the entire season. That's just not going to happen. I made videos about the Red Sox and the Cubs earlier, and it talked about why I think they're going to underperform compared to overperform or play at what they were last season. And I took the stance of position by position is either inconsistency or the unknown. The Rockies are the exact opposite. Outside of Trevor Story, who you can make a case is the unknown or the unexperienced or the not proven because he's only had the 1 year, that's where it ends. Gerardo Parra has a track record. Blackmon, Cargo, Arenado, Mark Reynolds, even if it's not the greatest track record. Ian Desmond has a track record. LeMahieu has a track record. But Black has a track record, which, isn't it kind of funny? You know, NL West team, gets former Padres manager, does very well. I think there's a team up north a little bit. I live in San Diego. Those Giants, former Padres manager, Bruce Bochy, got consistency at all 9 positions. Slightly different style. They were a more pitch-first team than the Rockies are. The pitching is still so-so, even though their bullpen pitching is much better this year. I'm not going to call it and go out on a limb and say, oh, they're going to the World Series. But people need to watch out, especially because in baseball is one of the streakier sports that we have, where teams have a tendency to win 9 out of 10 games and teams have a tendency to lose 9 out of 10 games. And when you fall behind, you can get steamrolled really fast in the standings. And I mean, in baseball, some divisions are over a week or 2 after the All-Star break. And at the moment, I don't see any team catching the Rockies. Now, of course, I say this, and they're getting completely destroyed at the moment, which only helps my story by the fact of the score is 15-7, and they're on the losing end. So I know what I'm talking about, guys. Promise.